There are some stories the wind carries softly across the empty plains of the old frontier. Stories that never made it into books, only into the hearts of those who still remember the taste of dust, the sound of silence, and the ache of loneliness. This one begins with a scream. Not the kind that echoes through a town, but the quiet, broken cry of a woman somewhere between sorrow and surrender. It was the year 1884, deep in the high deserts of New Mexico. A windstorm had passed the night before, scattering the earth like ash. In a small shack by a dying river, a woman named Clara May sat on the dirt floor, clutching her youngest daughter to her chest. Her husband, a man named Harlan Beckett, had left at dawn. He didn't leave with love or a goodbye, just a trail of boot prints and blood. 3 daughters, that was her sin. In those days, a man's worth was measured by sons, and a woman's by what she could give. Harlan wanted heirs. What he got were 3 small voices calling Mama in the dark. The town whispered about her. That poor woman out by the arroyo is the one who can't give a man what he wants. No one came by. No one asked if she was hungry. But someone was watching. A man who didn't talk much, the rancher from the far side of the valley. Folks called him Elias Crow, though most just said that lonely man up near the ridge. His wife had died years back in childbirth. The land had become his only company. Every morning he'd ride down into town for feed, say little, and ride back before sundown. But that day he saw the bruises. Clara had gone to the mercantile with her oldest girl, her face turned from the light, her voice trembling when she spoke. Elias didn't say a word, not then. But when the sun fell behind the buttes that evening, his horse was already saddled. He rode through the darkness, through the hiss of the wind and the dry rattle of mesquite branches, until the shape of her cabin appeared crooked, half collapsed, like it was holding its breath. He found her outside, trying to mend a fence that wasn't worth mending. Her hands were shaking. There was a bruise on her neck. And beside her, 3 small girls, one crying, one staring, one sleeping on a blanket that used to be a curtain. Elias climbed off his horse. His boots sank into the soft dirt. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The desert was still, the kind of still that makes you think the world's holding its breath. Then, in that quiet voice of his, he said the words that would change everything. "You're coming with me." Clara blinked, not sure she'd heard right. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Elias didn't repeat himself. He just walked past her, lifted the smallest girl into his arms, then reached for the next. There was no threat, no demand, just calm certainty, the kind a man gets when he's done being afraid of the world. Clara tried to speak, to protest, to ask why, but the words died in her throat. Her husband would come back. He'd come back angry. But something in Elias's eyes told her it didn't matter anymore. By the time the moon rose high, they were riding toward the ridge. The girls huddled together in the wagon, wrapped in Elias's old coat. Clara sat beside him, silent, staring out into the endless dark. She didn't ask where they were going. She just watched as the old shack disappeared behind them, her past swallowed by night. The Crow Ranch wasn't much, but it was quiet, and it was kind. The girls found a dog to chase and a creek to laugh beside. And slowly, so slowly, Clara began to heal. Weeks passed. Harlan Beckett never came for her. Maybe he left the territory. Maybe the desert took him. No one ever knew. But every night, as the sky burned orange over the mesas, Clara would find Elias by the fence line, his hat low, watching the horizon. He didn't talk much, not even then. But one evening she asked him, "Why'd you come for us?" He didn't look at her when he answered, just said, "Because I heard your cry, and I'd once prayed someone would have heard mine." That was when she understood. His loneliness wasn't just silence, it was grief carved into his bones. His wife had died giving birth to their child, a baby girl who hadn't survived the night. He'd buried them both on the hill, under a tree that never quite bloomed again. And now, he'd found life where he thought there was none left to give. The seasons turned, the desert softened. And for the first time in years, laughter echoed through Elias Crow's valley. The girls grew, learned to ride, to read, to sing. Clara's hands, once bruised, became steady. She mended shirts, tended gardens, and sometimes, when no one was looking, smiled at the man who'd saved her without saying a word. But life, even when kind, doesn't last without shadow. One winter night, Elias didn't come in from the range. The snow had started falling heavy, and by dawn, Clara found his horse waiting by the gate riderless. She followed the tracks until she found him beneath the cedar tree. Half buried in white, his coat pulled tight, his hat still in place. He'd been fixing the fence. The wind had caught him. His heart had given out. She knelt beside him, her breath trembling, and whispered the same words he once spoke to her. "You're coming with me." She buried him beside that little tree on the hill, the one that finally bloomed that spring. Some say that if you ride past the Crow Ranch today, you can still hear laughter in the wind. Three daughters grown, tending the same land, their children running wild through the sagebrush. And sometimes, when the sun dips low and the sky burns gold, a figure stands at the fence line, hat low, silent, watching the horizon with the peace of a man who finally found home. Because sometimes salvation doesn't come with thunder or prayer. It comes with 6 quiet words, spoken by a lonely soul who refuses to look away. You're coming with me. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Wild Tales Storytelling, where every tale whispers of love, loss, and the wild spirit of the human heart.